Bear with me. My name is Richard Marksbury, M-A-R-K-S-B-U-R-Y. I'm a citizen of New Orleans. I've lived here since 1973. I've been involved with the Monumental Task Committee for the time this began. So what I'm here today to do is to announce that at this very moment, there's a lawsuit being filed in Civil District Court. I am the plaintiff, the named plaintiff in that, and the lawsuit is asking the judge in Civil District Court to issue a temporary restraining order to prohibit the city of New Orleans from touching, removing, or doing anything with the Beauregard monument. One of the reasons for that is that when this lawsuit was in federal court, there were a lot of different angles about who owns what and what kind of property rights, but nobody ever really came in and asserted true ownership of the monuments. The mayor will probably claim after today that the court did. Well, the court didn't because there was a lot of documents that weren't provided. A lot of archival research hadn't taken place before that suit went to court. We now have some documents that I believe make a difference and will show that City Park, as an incorporated association under the Lieutenant Governor's office, owns the land that the monument is on and owns the monument. And I'll just point out right here so you get some perspective. This road on this side didn't exist when that monument was put up. The monument was bigger, the ground was bigger than that, and it touched this. So it's like a peninsula jutting out to the bayou. So when that monument was put up, there was no road here. When the land was sold by the Mercier family in 1900, it's very clear in the document. I didn't pass that out because it's just too much to do, but anybody can get, the sales, documented, recorded sales of that piece of property right there to City Park. Legal title to City Park. Not the city of New Orleans, City Park. City Park was incorporated as a private nonprofit, 1891. In 1993, it continues to reaffirm and reestablish that, and I passed that out as well. It's a board, there's a board of commissioners that oversee it. They're responsible for that. On April 21st, 1997, Gary Solomon, who was the president of the Board of Commissioners for City Park, sent a notarized statement to the National Historic Register because this monument had been nominated by Sidney Bartholomew, Mayor of New Orleans, as was the monument, to be part of the National Historic Register. To do that includes sending a very big and large packet. And in that package, you've got to show ownership. So, a statement from the City Park, I'll read the last line. Now therefore, the New Orleans City Park Improvement Association hereby certifies that it is the true and only legal owner of the General Beauregard equestrian statue located in New Orleans City Park. As such, does hereby consent and grant permission for this property to be listed in the National Register of Historic Places. A document that's notarized, an affidavit, was never seen in federal court. Furthermore, if you look at the Historic Register of Records, you'll see that they list Beauregard as being on private property, Robert E. Lee on public property. They distinguish those two. Every few years, the City Park Association amends their constitution. It always requires an affidavit. This is one of the more recent ones I found in 1993, which tells a little bit about, just in one paragraph, the history of the association. It was established as a nonprofit. It continues to act as a nonprofit association, private. With regard to me, as a citizen of New Orleans and citizen of the state, I'm entitled to find a citizen's suit against the city for moving this. This thing is covered under a Louisiana statute. The statute is Louisiana RS 41:1612B, which allows me to do that. This property, City Park, is now under the administration of the Secretary of the Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism, which reports to the Attorney General. Only that secretary has the right to grant a permit to move this statue, relocate it, do anything with it. That has not been done. And as a citizen, I have the right to stop that through a court if they say they grant the injunction until it's reviewed for true ownership. Unless there's documents that show that since Gary Solomon wrote this in 1997 that City Park sold that to the city, and there's an active sale, which I don't believe exists, then City Park owns the statue and has owned it since the day it was put up. In 1907, when the Beauregard Monument Association was looking for a place to put their statue, they looked throughout the city. There was a committee called the Location Committee. Finally, they decided here, and there's a resolution, resolved by the Beauregard Monument Association Locations Committee that a site for the statue in City Park offered by the Board of Commissioners is preferred, provided that the Board of Commissioners of City Park erect a mound, pedestal, and base for the monument. That's in the New Orleans State's Item 1021-1907. So City Park agreed to do that. The commissioners did. They donated $1,000 to go towards the granite pedestal at the bottom. They built the mound. The state of Louisiana put up $500 for this as well. There's no record to show that the city of New Orleans did anything to do this. So the state and the city, the state and the commission did that. Yesterday, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungasser sent a letter to the chairman of the board. You all have copies of it. He issued a statement today, and I'll just read it. In light of new evidence and information that the New Orleans City Park Improvement Association has an ownership interest in the General P.G.T. Beauregard statue, just this weekend, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungasser wrote a letter to the association demanding that it exercise its fiduciary duty to protect and preserve the Beauregard statue and all other state assets under its custody and control. The Lieutenant Governor remains committed to doing everything in his power to protect our history and art by saving these statues and monuments from removal and destruction. City Park Commission, it's hard to believe that they didn't understand all of this, but they've been quiet. If that monument is removed, then they will be opening themselves up to some legal challenges. There are some people here today who are descendants of the Monument Association of Beauregard who would have standing to take legal action against the City Park Commission if they let that asset go, because they're required to guarantee that they're taking care of their assets when they're appointed as commissioners. So, we're in court. We'll see what happens today. If the CDC judge doesn't grant it, then I'll go to the 4th Circuit and see if we can do something with that. But there's absolutely no hard evidence that the city of New Orleans owns a statue, and there certainly isn't any that they own the land. The act of sale is the act of sale. It's very clear that the family gave it to City Park. Richard, and I'll end with that.
When the city built this road, though, did they acquire that neutral ground, or did the park maintain ownership?
The park maintained ownership. The city was allowed usufruct, which is the right of access for it.
Do you believe Billy Nungasser has the power and authority to order the City Park Improvement Association to keep that statue?
Only the secretary that reports to him has the authority to grant a permit to do it. So if the board here doesn't do that, then they're violating or abrogating their duties as commissioners. So I assume that there's a lot of people that might take action that way. And I'm assuming there are a lot of people in the city of New Orleans that would be very disappointed in the administration of the City Park Board if they allow this to happen.
Was the statue ever accepted on the National Historic Registry?
Absolutely. That and the league, both of them were accepted. Again, nominated by Cindy Bartholomew.
Can you go over again how this is all just coming to light now?
Well, it's called archival research. You know, when this thing all began in the first place, a lot of people were volunteering. It was a complicated lawsuit. It involved 4 monuments. People weren't being paid for, doing kinds of research, and the legal action went down certain paths. One of them tried to claim ownership, the Monumental Task Committee. Others looked at federal transportation issues, and so getting straight down to who owns it. We always knew that the National Historic Register put that this monument was on private land. We knew that when we were in court, but we didn't have the documentation, which goes with regard to the notarized statement from Solomon. But at the same time, it's not hard, to go back and dig into these things. The bill of sale is the bill of sale. It's about as accurate as possible. And in the bill of sale, he says that he's allowing New Orleans to have usufruct rights for things like when this road was built.
And if you can reiterate anything that you've heard from the City Park Association on this matter.
Nothing. I sent the chairman of the board and another high-level administrator something on Friday evening and hadn't received any response. My guess is they're huddling after getting the letter from the Lieutenant General yesterday and also learning today about a lawsuit. They're probably thinking what their options are.
Rick.
Yes.
In the federal suit, RBA specifically took up the ownership of the Beauregard Monument, and citing a state Supreme Court case, said that New Orleans, the city of New Orleans, owns all the property of City Park. That seems to be a pretty heavy burden to overcome if you're going to.
Perhaps it will, but then again, Judge Barbier may have been acting on incorrect and insufficient information. Number one, that lawsuit, I believe, dealt with Audubon Park specifically and was broad-based otherwise. Since that time, the legislature and the Lieutenant Governor's office has taken this under its administration. So there's a lot of things, Jeff, that are different from that. Plus, you have an active sale, for it. And you have this notarized statement from the Park Commission. None of those did Judge Barbier has seen. Had he seen them, his decision may have been different. And that's why it's called new evidence.
Could we have a show of hands of the people who are descendants of the people who built the monument?
Repeat the question, please.
Could we have a show of hands of the people who are here who are descendants of the people who built the monument?
Anybody here who's a descendant of the monument?
My husband's great-great-grandmother's sister was married to P.G.T. Beauregard.
My husband's great-great-grandfather did the dedication for Lee's statue.
My great-great-uncle was Charles Childress, who contributed, and the United Daughters of the Confederacy donated $3,500 for the land.
We have a list of descendants that are living for all the monuments. So the Monumental Task Commission has a list already.
How messy might this litigation get if the statue is torn down and then you're forced to sue over its removal?
I would say it would get messy because there would be perhaps enough people like the ones who just spoke up out there, a class action suit that would be against the board for not fulfilling their fiduciary responsibilities to protect their assets. And I would hope that once the mayor sees the bill of sale and also sees the document that was notarized by President Solomon, that it takes a thought and calls a timeout. And it should put them on, the burden should be on them to prove that they own it, because I think these documents prove that City Parks own it. So I think the city has to prove it owns it, which again, I'll go back, was never submitted to Judge Barbier's court.
If no other questions, we can wrap it up, yeah.
Would any of the descendants care to speak?
We couldn't hear what he was saying, so we're not really sure what
Yeah,
all
we
what all
couldn't
the
hear
legal
what went on, so we have nothing
They
to
didn't come
comment on.
prepared for this, they just came to support.
Things are good.
If you want to pull somebody
What
aside
was
after that wants to
explained?
speak, then that's fine,
we're
but
good.
we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Or anybody wants to speak to one of them afterwards, about your interest in your descendants, I'm sure they'll be happy to talk to you.
All right.
Anything else? Thank you all very much for coming out in the sun.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.